This is the Double 4, a lawnmower race with a difference. 4 hours of racing on the Saturday and 4 hours on the Sunday. Here I had some of my best driving, some of our weirdest breakdowns, and also one of my biggest mistakes. So meet our mower for the weekend. This is Richard's Endurance Lawn Mower. It's going to be myself and him riding throughout this roughly 45-minute stints on one of the most unforgiving, harshest tracks I've ever raced on. There's gravel, there's dirt, there's ruts, there's jumps. It had everything, so we're going to get right into it. Richard is ready to go after a dodgy practice. We are over there in second to last. It's going to be a big one, very sunny. Richard's ready. See how he does. So here we are on the start, 30 mowers on the line and Richard's over it. It's a Le Mans start, so you've got to run over, get your cut-off switch in, get the starter motor going, and off we go. Richard just adjusting the choke there. So we get a decent start, jump a couple, but as we said, we didn't get any practice and therefore any qualifying time. So we started second to last. So it's going to be about picking people off and getting into our rhythm as soon as possible. So the format of this weekend is going to be a 4-hour race on the Saturday and another 4-hour race on the Sunday. The two are combined. But you can see here, getting into this first lap is going to be tricky to get through it. This section of the circuit was actually on like a gravel car park area. This was hosted at a motocross race event. And so, yeah, it was super dusty with 30 mowers going through here, all kicking up dust. You can see Richard is having to go a little bit steady just for self-preservation, really, to be sure there's no one in the way. As you can see, that you really cannot see much. So we come around that first hairpin, through this left, and then we're going to jump down back onto the grass area. So there is a bit of a lip here, so a jump over the side now as we go down, and we're into the first jump on this circuit. So as you go over here, you get fully airborne, the engine revs up, we come down this back straight, hitting about VMAX, which is probably about 40 miles an hour on the brakes over the right, which goes over a crest, a really tricky corner. Then you're trying to get it squared off to go up the hill. You can really see how steep this is. This is actually the motocross start line. As we go round to the left tight corner right at the top of the hill, it's quite awkward, that one. As we come through the right, we're now getting into the back half of this circuit, which was very tight, twisty and technical. So we're on the gravel again, braking on the gravel as you switch over to the mud, so the whole thing grips up. Richard doing really well. There's a couple of Group 4s looking to come by, sends it up the inside. Through this hairpin, we're trying to get navigated through there, and you can see these mowers are really small that we're riding on here. And so we were really good in the tight, twisty sections through those hairpins compared to the Group 4s, which are quicker overall. And then in the high speed, that's where they would really gain their time. So finding the ways through the traffic, letting people by without losing loads of time is going to be a lot of this. And so Richard, really solid first lap there as we go, a couple of faster mowers coming by. And it's going to be about really just doubling down and trying to keep going throughout this race, not have any breakdowns and avoid. You can see here there are a couple of Group 4 mowers, but also tourist mowers. And so you really got to be aware there's lots of traffic. Richard sticks his hand up. He sees a yellow flag. So as we come through onto this jump onto the gravel section, there is 2 people off in a crash already. You can see one there on the left, one there on the right. So you can see it's all about just keeping going on this circuit. That could be a mower broken for them, and just keeping things moving, setting into a lap time and really going for them. So you can see a lot of the tourists are going to be really keen to get by. They're on faster engines in a different class here. You can see 33 sends it up the inside. There's Group 2s as well as we pass through there, and then we are on a Group 3. And so Richard really settling into this first stint, trying to get into a bit of momentum, and then it was time for me to jump on the mower. So with this lap, it's going to be our way in, and after 45 minutes, a really solid stint from Richard, it's now my time. We actually didn't film the changeover because I had to change the battery on the camera, but here we are on for my first stint. Now, we didn't get any time in practice because we were having some clutch issues, and so this is actually my first time through here, really trying to figure it out. Luckily, it's not too dusty, so onto this hairpin, actually losing the rear a little bit on the way in there. It was hard to get the mower stopped. This area was really loose, but then once you broke through that top surface, it did grip up quite a lot, so it was very unpredictable to ride. As we go over the right here, and keeping an eye out behind me for another Group 4 before going over the jump. Richard giving me a thumbs up, and so I give him a thumbs up to say everything is okay. But actually, as we go through this stint, everything suddenly became not okay. We're about an hour into this stint as we're dealing with traffic, very close racing, and something was about to go wrong, and this was a really tough start to the start of this race. We were trying to just get into our rhythm, and this was a real blow to our pace and as we went on. So through this section you can see there's lots of gravel, lots of really big rocks, and it meant that they were being flung up against us a little bit. Everyone was running mud flaps, but there's only so much you can do. And as we come through this section, you're going to have to listen closely to this audio. So as we go through there, I didn't know what had happened. That could be an engine blow, it could be a belt that had gone, I didn't know. I suddenly lost drive and heard some really bad noises, and so I was trying to get as much momentum towards the pits as I'm waving at Richard, because I know this thing is going to be hard to push, so I'm hoping he can come and give me a hand to get this back to the pits and get it repaired. So I'm immediately looking over it. I couldn't see anything immediately wrong. The belt was okay. I was then looking around, is the engine blown? What's going on? I could notice that the belt was loose, and it turns out the problem was far worse than we thought. So still in this race, I don't know what's going on. Richard's got to me and we're going to push this thing all the way back. This was hard work with the engine still being driven by the belt. As we get back into the pits, we're going to just tear this thing apart, try and figure out what the problem is, and then get it repaired as fast as possible. You can see how many laps we're losing to everyone in the background here through this time lapse. We're getting the seat off, just try and see what the issue is. And yeah, as I mentioned, the issue was far worse than we initially thought. So what you're looking at here is the top hat. This is the rear pulley, and a stone had got up inside there and actually blown it to pieces. So this element is sort of two pieces, this top hat. I'm about to show you both of them. Now, they are held with 8 M5 screws. So there are bolts on the inside of this. And as I flip it over, a stone had got in there and blown all of those bolts off. Now, Richard went running down the pit lane, couldn't find any screws, and so I actually went to Screwfix to buy some more screws. Luckily for us, there was a red flag for a period. We got the bits we needed, got it fixed back together, and I got straight back on the mower and back into this race with just over an hour to go. So we're going to pull away back into this race. We are probably 50 laps down on a lot of our competitors, but we know we're only 3 hours into an 8-hour race. And so during that time, the red flag was actually to change the track to move away from some of the dustier areas. So I'm on brand new track. I didn't know where I was going. So we're going downhill here. I get on the brakes and just nothing happens. It's so slippery. You can see how deep I go on the corner. I didn't know where I was going. And I actually got caught on that grass and had to try and find my way out. Now, there was another thing. We were having issues with the fueling through the carburetor. You can see I'm really trying to get this thing going. I was furious about it. And the carburetor was slightly clogged, meaning that we were getting issues where the mower wouldn't start, it wouldn't get going. I didn't know what was going on, and I was just having issues getting this thing back into this race. So Richard gave me a push away. We got back running, but all of our problems weren't fixed. I'm just trying to see how this thing's going to run now. Back into this race, picking up some speed, and if you listen closely, there were some issues with fueling through the carburetor, but I really didn't know what to do in this situation. So there you can hear spluttering. The engine just isn't getting enough fuel through the carburetor. So I'm trying to figure out now, is it because we've just started it, the fuel tap was off for a while, and so therefore there isn't, it's not getting the fuel it needs. If I give it some running, will it fix it? Or do I need to come in and replace the carburetor and sort it out properly? But you can see here, things just got worse and worse. I tried to nurse it through the next stint, trying to figure it out, try and adjust my driving to make sure I had fuel at the right times. And you're about to see here, I just wasn't getting the fuel I needed. I was so worried about not getting up this hill and rolling back down, which would be very bad. As we go over any bumps, I'm just not getting any fuel. So I made the call after about half an hour to come in and sort this out properly. So as we come back into the pit stop, this is going to be, well, I was trying to make this the quickest carburetor change you've ever seen. So I get straight off the mower, get straight to my tools, although I was, pretty tired after what was almost all of a stint. So I pulled the carburetor off, switch off the fuel, get everything changed over to a brand new carburetor. It's always worth carrying one of those in this. spilling fuel a little bit everywhere. So get a new carburetor on. I knew this would solve the problem, so it was worth doing, meaning I could go way quicker. So I get that back on. I think this was only a few minutes lost. Richard was actually having to marshal at this time, so I'm having to do the pit stop myself. I didn't know if the fuel would get me all the way to the end, so I filled it up just to make sure. So I'm actually going to run what is almost a double stint with no clutch here. I start it on the starter motor. Luckily, that is enough. I had to get the choke on this new carburetor, and then we are eventually going to get away and back into this race. Now, I was actually losing so much time before because of how little fuel I had, and now this thing felt absolutely rapid actually getting the fuel it needed. And you can see by how deep I go into this corner, I was used to braking at that point, carrying way less speed, and so I actually made a mistake. Thumbs up to Richard here. He was asking if it was all okay. It definitely was. I was very happy with it. And so the mower felt absolutely amazing. That was the thing I was most confident about here, is that although we were running P4 of 4 in class and several laps down, we knew we had the whole 4-hour race tomorrow. And actually we had a little bit of a secret up our sleeves as Alfie sends it down the inside and then runs slightly through our pit lane. I had to adjust for him in my helmet at the time. I was a bit like, that was a big send and did make me back out the throttle, but that's okay. It's kind of part of the course here, dealing with traffic. You're trying to find your way through, get past slower mowers, let faster mowers by without holding up yourself, really. And the mower just felt absolutely amazing, so that was what I was most excited about. So I just got my head down and we finished this race. But the second race, it was where all the fun was had. So we're going to jump straight ahead to that. And this is actually practice for day 2, where we're going to learn a new, slightly reconfigured track.
All right, welcome to day 2. The second 4-hour race. This is practice. Let's figure out this new track. All right, long sweeping right. Tight left-hand hairpin. Getting on the throttle on the way out. We've got some S's. Left, then right. Oh, we've gone a bit deep. Up on 2 wheels. A bit left. A long right, and there's going to be a big drop in a second. Down here, flat out. Into this grassy section. Along the left. Very off camber, and we turn down the hill. This reminds me of skiing. Tight left. Now, the first of the 2 jumps. Oh, bit of air on the top. Once that gets quick, we'll have more. Second jump. Woo! Round the right. Tight hairpin, bit of throttle down the hill. This looks a bit damp and wet. Yeah, this caught me out yesterday going the other way. Through the hairpin, up the hill. Mower's feeling good. Long left. Into the right, and this is the hairpin. I've gone in a bit hot. There's a bump on the apex, I spotted that. This is a tight corner, and then onto the long straight.
We're back. This is for race 2, and we played the genius strategy move of coming 3rd or 4th to last in the last race, which means we're 3rd or 4th on the grid. So another Le Mans start. I'm starting this time. It'll be 45 minutes, then Richard's on, and then we'll see where we go. We're hoping we fixed our issues from yesterday, but we'll see.
So straight into this race, again, another Le Mans start. I'm starting this time and actually ended up being on pole. So cut off in, starter motor on, and we are leading this race. Now, slightly helped by the grid position, but we got away from it. So I was really trying to get a move on in this race. I knew that if I could hold some positions early on, that would gain us a lot by the time the field spreads out. So we're really going to get on with it, try and not hang about. I was pushing in practice to try and make sure I knew where I was going, and Pete behind on another bug. He was actually leading this class at the time, and so I knew he was going to be quick and probably come by quick. I actually run a little bit wide, but that's okay. We're going to let Pete go by. We are kind of heading into the unknown. There wasn't loads of practice done on this track, so I'm happy to follow Pete here and just try and keep some people behind me, so that as the field spreads out, there's a few seconds between each mower. You can gain nearly a lap, probably a minute and a half on some of your competitors just by doing this. So we're in second at this time as we go over the jump for the first time, and you can see the crowd go absolutely wild for that. And so we're heading around this top corner, and we're just trying to get our head down and carry some momentum. But actually, a Group 4 sends it by, loses at the rear, and nearly takes us out. That was a bit of a scary moment, and yeah, I think a bit of a mistake at that stage. Now, I was actually a bit surprised here. I was expecting Pete, who is a very quick driver on a quick mower, to kind of leave me in the dust here. But actually, I was starting to sense through some of the corners and at some areas of the circuit, we were a little bit quicker. And so again, I mean, I can't lie and say it wasn't for pride at all, but you're about to witness a send. So as we go over the jump, we carry more momentum through and manage to go all the way outside. The crowd go absolutely mental again to see this move. As we go round the outside of this one, which will become the inside for the hairpin, and we've got that move done. So we are back in the lead of this race, enjoying this second half of this double four. And as we come out of this tight hairpin, trying to get some momentum up the hill, we are going to push on as hard as we possibly can. Now you can see there's a couple of Group 4s starting to come by now, and the Taurus mower on my right. These guys were leading the first race. They've come the entire way through the pack. Some of them were bigger engines, but the Group 4 behind me, as you're about to see Kenny send it by, so I'm going to let him up the inside. There's no point fighting these guys. They are going to be 5 or 10 seconds a lap quicker than me, so there is absolutely no point to do it. It's just about finding a time where they can go up the inside and not hold you up. So I always find trying to let these guys go at the right time is the clever move, rather than trying to fight them too hard and they end up putting you on the outside line to try and get by, and you end up losing time that way. So as we come up the jump, I actually really give myself a fright here. I stayed on the throttle, and as it went over the top, I wheelied off the back of the mower. You can see how high the nose is up here. Yeah, I gave myself a bit of a fright there. So I kind of knew throughout this race, when you go up that jump, ease off the throttle, just a bit of throttle when you get to the top. Otherwise, the wheels bite, and you can see the second time I go through there, a little bit better this time. If you go flat out, when you land at the top, the mower bites and wants to throw you off the back. These things do have plenty of power for their weight. Stu comes flying by on his Group 4 with a thumbs up, and we've now got another move up the inside. We're just trying to deal with this traffic and let everyone by whilst keeping momentum. I did know at this stage I'm still the lead bug, the lead Group 3. And so I was just trying to hold that position throughout this race. I knew that was the best we could do. We're going into this race 50 laps behind. 87 laps by the end of the race by the time we lost time on the first one. And so we really just had to have a super clean, quick, fast race to be in with a chance of having a podium here. As I go round the outside of 53, just trying to find here. But yeah, we're quicker through the corners, and then these guys have got so much power down the straights. But actually this was a situation where I kind of knew I was quicker over a full lap. And so I was getting a little bit frustrated, stuck behind here, as he slows right up for a corner. So actually, he lets me by around the outside, which is really great for our progress here. Very kind of him. And so, yeah, it's just about finding the right time. So I was about to line up and move around the outside of that Group 2 as he pulls out to let me by, which was very kind, but also unpredictable. And so, yeah, it's just about navigating our way through the traffic. Here, we're actually going to have to make half a move up the jump, which we weren't really supposed to do. We were told single file up there, but I didn't really have much choice at that stage. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got up the hill. So, yeah, we're just navigating our way through this first stint. And let me tell you, I had so much fun throughout this first stint. The mower felt really, really great. I could see I was gapping the guys behind me. I'm really just having a great time. So I saw a signal from Richard. That's 45 minutes. We're about to run out of fuel, so come in and pit. And I would have absolutely mowed down my pit crew if it was Formula 1 there. I came straight past the pit, a bit late on the brakes. Richard then chucks the fuel in, and I'm actually going to have to swap a battery on this. And this is where I made a mistake, because this is where the footage ended for Richard's stint. But let me tell you, he did a good job.
All right, so just got cleaned up after my first stint. I managed to lead the first few laps, so happy with that. The pace was great, mower feels great. Richard is out there now. I'm just about to pull him in to swap over, but we're currently leading our class by 7 laps. An hour and a half in. I don't want to touch wood, you know, I don't want to jinx it too early, but much happier with this compared to yesterday. I'm just excited to be in it. Let's go, let's go.
So you can see I'm fired up to go back on my stint here. Richard came in after a great stint. It was my time to get on the mower. And this stint got racy, let me tell you. And so we're just going to come out and get settled into this. As we come back down this straight, you can see a couple of mowers lining up a move behind. And actually, it's our Greedus, our fellow Group 3. He sends it in deep. and actually we get a better run out. So Algridis was currently running second to us in this race, so it was going to be about keeping him behind. Now, what was very impressive is that Algridis was running this race on his own. So where Richard and I were swapping stints, Algridis was coming in, filling up his fuel on his own and getting back out on the mower. And as he passes us here, you could see he was absolutely flying, and I knew this. So I knew on pace alone, Algridis was quicker than us. So I knew I had to battle him as much as possible. Whenever I came across him, it's just keep him behind. So you can see I was hanging on to him, pushing very hard here, and I actually made quite a big mistake slipping off the side of the hill. So I'm trying to get back in and let Algridis back through so we don't overtake him illegally and get back on the circuit. And actually I was managing to keep up with him, keep him in eye shot throughout this stint and just hang on the back. So I knew he wasn't going to get any laps on us. And so just getting our head down before we got caught up in a bit of a battle in this stint. And the first of them was actually with Group 4. So you can see here there is that red Murray mower behind us. And yeah, all of this is about trying to let everyone by in the best way possible without having close calls, slow everyone up, having incidents. And so as I was turning into this right-hander, he just sticks the nose alongside, and it meant I had to bail out. Now, on a Group 4, that is a fine racing move. You're going to be okay. But on a Group 3, like this thing, if I'd turned in then, I would have been off the mower and on the floor. So I wasn't too happy in the moment, in the helmet, with that move. And so I point him up down the straight. He says, sorry, I think that was a thumbs up then. And we actually spoke about this after the race, and that was okay. But as I point him up the inside, he goes deep, and so it means if I'm going to lose time, I'm going to have to let him back by again. And so I just got on with it and sort of let him find his own time. And actually he chose to do that up the jump, which I was not the most happy with. But you can see there, Kenny pushes him by. Bump drafting in lawnmower racing, you've got to love it. And that was all okay. So you can see in the moment I wasn't too happy about it. We spoke about it after, and it's completely fine. We managed to both avoid the incident, but yeah, I didn't want to be thrown off at that moment. And now actually this was where our battle with Algridis heated up again. So he pitted, and that meant he'd come out just behind us. So I knew now there was another opportunity to try and keep him by. He sticks out the inside with an incredibly late move, but can't get it stopped in time. So the dive bomb meets the old switcheroo, and unfortunately that was where our camera ran out of battery. And so we're back on board for another stint. This is my third stint. Richard's had another 45 minutes on the mower. He's done a great job. And then we're back on for our final stint of this race. So I knew it was just going to be about keeping this and bringing it home. At this stage, we were 22 laps in the lead as we have another battle with Algridis. We seem to just fight each other on the circuit. As he goes around the outside, I stick it up the inside. There's still room, and so I'm going to try and hold him behind me. Although there was about 20 laps of the difference, overall, when you add the two results together, I knew it was going to be close. So I had to keep Algridis behind us if we were going to be in with a chance of a podium or maybe even a win overall. I knew that's how close it was going to be, but I didn't know the specifics when I was on the mower, so I was just trying to hold Algridis behind us as he gets a better run out of that hairpin. It was really tricky with traction down there as there was sort of fresh grass that was incredibly slippery. As we get on the throttle to run down the straight, I'm just going to have to defend. I knew this was the best overtaking opportunity. I knew Algridis could brake very late, so I defend the inside, and Algridis manages to get by, which is a real shame. He actually runs deep, but I was so worried about him running deep that I did exactly the same thing as I followed him. But now we get wrapped up in another battle. Behind us, we have Pete from earlier, so we have a great battle on. They'd had some issues throughout this race, and so I think they were a few laps down, but I knew this was a chance to have some great racing side by side. Super close. That's what these mowers are about. These Group 3s, you have incredible racing. You can race literally shoulder to shoulder. Algridis gets held up by a Group 4 there, so we're back in this three-way battle, all three of us on circuit together, when actually we were racing over several laps on the timing screens. Algridis gets a slow run out of here. We have to let a tourist by on the left as we're just trying to stay in this battle. I was thinking, can I get ahead of Algridis whilst also keeping Pete behind, attack and defend at the same time? So as we come down this section, I do just cover the inside. Algridis actually pits, but I'm defending so hard to not let Pete down the inside that he actually gets a better exit out of this corner. He gets such a great run. He goes all the way around the outside, and you're about to see my biggest mistake. It's actually cringe watching this. Let me talk you through what happened there. Pete had got by me, but I actually thought at this stage here, he was leaving a mower's width that I could dive into. Now, this was a miscalculation on my point. He was always going to turn in, and I run into him and get a bit late on the brakes. And what was even worse was I gave him a puncture. So I'm just saying a massive sorry to Pete after, well, it was entirely my fault. It was a complete miscalculation. I was going for a move that wasn't really on, and actually he was always going to turn in at that stage. So I felt absolutely awful running around on the mower at this stage because I knew I'd give him a puncture. I went and spoke and said sorry to him later on throughout this race. But yeah, this... That was not my finest moment. So we're going to hand the mower over to Richard to hopefully bring this home in a great result, as we're going to see lightning fast pit stop at this stage.
I don't think that works.
Now, there was one worry, is that the cut-off switch I didn't think worked when I pulled it out there. Now, this is so if you fall off, it cuts the engine so the mower doesn't keep going and run into someone or something. Now, we knew that scrutineering, they do check all of the mowers at the end of the race, so it had to work. So at this stage, we just took the decision to, yeah, you can see it there in some of this footage, to try and fix it in that moment, and we did get it working, but we didn't know for sure. So we swapped over the cutoff to make sure it was going to work at the end of the race. Otherwise, we would get disqualified. And so Richard went out and did a lap just to get momentum into his stint. But actually, we made the call to pit after lap 1 to triple check that the cutoff worked, because again, disqualification would mean potentially a podium or potentially a win would go to someone else through disqualification. So Richard got back out into this race before coming back in to check it. And it was all good, it all worked. So we had to get that back on, and again, our clutch was slightly fading over the race, which meant Richard had to again start it on the starter motor, which probably isn't great for it, but it got the job done. And he's going to head back out into his stint, where he just absolutely cracked on with it and brought it home. We knew that's all we needed to do at this stage in the result we were at. You can see him sending it over the jump there. Some of these slow motion shots I was able to get. This circuit was just so much fun to race on, as Alfie sent it by in the air with his thumbs up. So yeah, we were just pushing on, trying to bring it home, and we knew this could be a great result for us. So as very dusty, sunburnt Callum said, yes, we were winning race 2, but unfortunately that is an unofficial race, as the two are combined, the two results. So we still didn't know where we were going to be overall. As Alfie sends it around the outside, they're racing for position on the final lap. But we are going to win this second race. So that is an unofficial win for us. We're going to take that. Very happy with that result for race 2. And it was just to find out where we came overall. Now, although we did win this second race by 20 laps, it meant that we did come second overall, which was a great achievement. We were very happy with that. We had such a great weekend.
237 laps, no fear.
There we go, going up to go and get our trophies. Now, I must say, second, we were happy with that result, but we did, well, we looked like absolute rookies compared to Algridus, who did this thing on his own and won this race. So very well done to him. And you can see we got a trophy here. You actually can't see it, but I promise it's there. So thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe. There's going to be more racing content in the next week, and I'll see you in the next one.